I thought I did everything right. I sold the big house, got rid of half my stuff, moved into a place I thought was perfect, and within 3 months, I realized I made a massive mistake that cost me thousands of dollars. And then I had months of stress on top of it. If you're thinking about downsizing in retirement, please learn from what I got wrong before you make the same move. Hey, thank you for writing in, Jack. I appreciate it because this is how we get better as human beings. Now, if you're watching this, most retirees, they don't get to take this one back. They make a downsizing decision, they think it's right, they move, and 3 months in, they realize that they had it backwards. But by then, the mistake has already been done. And in order to undo it, it's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Now, our viewers, they write in all the time with some incredible learning moments, warning moments. And so we're going to unpack this particular letter that we got, with Jack's permission, of course, and we're going to, again, learn from it. So I've watched a lot of retirees and they make this move and they feel exactly like this 3 to 12 months later. And here's what they've told me, what I've learned, what I've discerned over time is that they go sell the big house and then they move into the home that they thought was perfect. But sometime later, usually within the first year, they're calling it a mistake. And here's what they didn't tell me, what Jack didn't tell me in this particular letter, though. And he didn't tell me what perfect actually looked like for him. Now, they shared the opposite. They shared what they wished they'd paid attention to. And that's the missing piece right there, because perfect isn't one thing. It's actually a stack of things. And then if you're only counting on 2 or 3 criteria to judge a home against, a location against for your downsize, I'm saying that those common ones, smaller, cheaper, some form of an easier life, that's a short list. And as soon as you make the move, you're going to start experiencing some other factors that you wish you probably accounted for. So is it on a single floor? Is it walkable? Or is there a repair risk? Does this home and location fit my lifestyle? Each one of those is a different definition of perfect. And each one, they point to a right answer. So the question that Jack is asking right here was downsizing the wrong move. That's not actually the question. The real question is, what does perfect, or as close to perfect as possible, what does that look like for the next 20 years of your life? Because if you don't answer that, you're going to optimize against all the wrong goals every single time. So here's what we're going to walk through today. And it's 7 things that quietly define what perfect could actually look like for a downsize. And every one of them, they point back to the same question. Perfect for what? And that's for you to decide. So is that your lifestyle? Is that your budget? And by the time that we're done, you're going to know exactly what to look at before you make the move. And if you've already made the move, you're going to know what to fix. So remember, most retirees, they pick a downsize on 3 or 4 criteria, but there should be at least 6 to 8. And I'm going to give you a common version of those 6 to 8 criteria to reference, to look at, but feel free to change them for your situation. But here is what I'm willing to bet, is that the easy ones, the top 3 or 4 that come to mind, that's great. Regret, though, that lives from number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? The second half of that list. Things that you didn't really know that would matter, but it actually does whenever you start living in the home or in the location. You're probably going to default to some of the easy stuff, the easy ones that come to mind. So smaller square footage, lower payment, less to clean. Those are things that you can see on a listing. They're not wrong. They're just not the entire list. The whole list, what it looks like is more along the lines of square footage, floor plan or livability, yard size, walkability, distance to people that matter. That's a big one. Build age, so how old the home is, and then the repair risks that are with that. Lifestyle fit. whether the place actually fits what you want and where you want to live for the next 20 years. When you optimize just against 3 criteria, you're going to live somewhere for 2 decades and you're going to bump into the rest of the things that are on that list. The other things the desired qualities, the desired traits. That's where, again, that regret is going to pop up. So before anything else, your definition of perfect needs that 6 to 8 dimensions on it. Not just the quick and easy 3 that come to mind. This list, it is job number 1. Now, point number 2, stairs are the silent feature on a retirement home. So nobody puts them in the pros and cons list, but they end up being one of the biggest factors over time. And here's why. Because falls, these are the number 1 causes of injury for adults over 65. That's CDC data. I didn't just make that up. And it's been consistent for years. And stairs, they're not the only place that falls happen, but they are a big one. And it's not just about falling. It's actually about the days that you don't feel great. And the stairs, they become a project, both mentally and physically. Or if the laundry room, it's on the wrong floor. There's a bedroom that you can't get to anymore. A single-story home is not a luxury, in my opinion. It is a runway. It's the runway that gives you the longest amount of time and opportunity to live in that home. It's the one feature that lets you stay where you are without renovating, without moving again, without depending on someone else to navigate the place. And most retirees, they don't realize this until they need it, until it's too late. And once they need it, the move is way harder than it would have been 10 years earlier. So when you're defining perfect, single story is on the list. Not a nice to have, it's on the list. Now, before we get to point number 3, remember the question we started with. Was downsizing the wrong move? That's not the question. The real question is, what does a perfect downsizing home look like for you? Now hold that thought because it's about to come up again. But before we get it, let's go to point number 3. Now, most retirees either keep too much yard or they move to a 0 yard. So both of these answers are likely wrong. And you have too much yard, that becomes a job that you didn't sign up for. So that's the mowing, the trimming, the leaves, the sprinkler repairs, irrigation, winterizing, or the winterization of the irrigation system. Look, that is a part-time job. And if you can't or don't want to do it yourself, now you've got a yard service line item in your monthly budget for the next 20 years. Now in a 0 yard, that sounds simpler, but here's the catch. If you like having coffee in the morning outside, out back, if you like growing a tomato plant, then 0 yard, it means you don't have a place for that anymore. You traded one problem, one challenge for another. Now you could compensate for that with a porch and maybe a raised garden bed that's sitting on the porch itself, but it's eating into that space. Just know the trade-offs whenever you are looking for that downsizing location. But in my opinion, the right answer for most retirees is a small and intentional yard. So big enough to enjoy, small enough that maintenance does not run your life, and it's the most overlooked specification on a retirement house. And this particular criteria is one of the easiest to get wrong in either direction. Now, point number 4, it's walkability and the day that you stop driving. Here's a number nobody wants to think about, but AAA, they actually track the average annual cost of owning a car. They had it in the $12,000 range for the last few years now. And that's between insurance, gas, maintenance, registration, depreciation. That's a real number. 12 grand. 12 grand a year, every year, for as long as you've got a car. Now imagine a future where you don't need one, or you only need one car. Walkability is what gets you there. A walkable neighborhood means independence. It means options. It means the day driving feels like a chore, you still have groceries and a pharmacy and a coffee shop and a doctor's office, all without needing the keys. Now, walkability is one aspect, one way to solve this. Uber, Lyft, it's another. But a lot of folks don't really care for that kind of service, though it can be very convenient, and it is certainly an option. But the point is, most retirees, they don't think about this when they're picking a place because you can still drive. But you're not picking for today. You're picking for 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And again, 10 years from now, walkability, that is going to feel like the most important feature on the list because that maintains independence. So when you're defining perfect, walkable, that goes a long way, even if you love driving today. All right, point number 5, and this is proximity to people who matter. And here's where it gets personal. So distance to family, it's one of those things that you don't realize is as important as it is until it's perhaps too late. So when you're picking a retirement place, that downsizing location, it's easy to focus on the place itself, the kitchen, the patio, the price, but the place, you can look at it as a container. So what goes in the container is your life. And a big part of your life, especially in retirement, it's who you see and how often. So if your kids and your grandkids are 30 minutes to an hour away, you have the chance to see them more often. That's normal weekend stuff. If they're 4 hours away, you see them on holidays. If they're a flight away, you see them twice a year if you're lucky. Those numbers matter more than people realize when they're making this kind of decision. I'm not saying you have to be on top of family. Some retirees genuinely want space. You've earned it. That is fine. But know what you're choosing. Don't optimize for a cheap mortgage and find out 3 years in that you're seeing the people that you love half as much as you wanted to. This is one of the dimensions of perfect that gets left off the list. And it's usually one of the ones that people regret leaving off. And so it's emotional, but it's real, and make sure you're making that known trade-off. Now, number 6 here. This is build age and repair costs. So how old is this home that you're looking at? And here's a financial one that most retirees, you underweight, undervalue. The age of the house, that matters. Not for resale, but for repair cost and the stability that comes with it. A house built in the last 15 to 20 years has known systems. The roof has a remaining life. The HVAC, it has a remaining life as well. The water heater, the windows, the siding. You can look at all of it and you can predict within what the next bill is going to be, when that's going to come due. Older homes, you're rolling the dice. So a 1950s home with character, that is gorgeous until the irons rain, until that stack, it falls, and then all of a sudden you have a 5-figure surprise. So in retirement, surprise expenses, they hit harder than they used to. You're on a fixed income. You don't have years of W-2 income to absorb a $30,000 repair. You need predictability. So when you're looking at houses, you're not just looking at the kitchen and the floor plan. You're looking at when each major system, when that was last replaced, and what that means for your next 10 to 20 years of repair budget. So a newer house, though, with a smaller floor plan, that can be a way better retirement home than a bigger, older house at the same price. Because peace of mind, that is a feature. Predictability, stability, that is a feature. And that's what you're buying when you're buying newer versus the older home. Point number 7, the financial move you skipped before you moved. And here's the one that hurts. A lot of retirees who downsize, they never run the math on actually staying in the home. So sometimes the house you already have, that can become the right retirement house with the right financial moves. And maybe a refinance is something to consider. And that would lower the payment to where staying in your current home, that is actually the better answer. Maybe you've got equity that you can pull into a remodel that's something more age-friendly. So a first floor master, for example, a wider bathroom door. Maybe a small move within the same neighborhood that costs you less than a big move across town. And it also still gives you the lifestyle that you want. The mistake isn't downsizing. It's downsizing without running the numbers first of what it costs to stay, how to make the current home livable and accessible for where you are in life. The other mistake is making the move without putting your CPA, a lender, and a real estate professional all in the same conversation, without asking the question, can I make where I am into what I want it to be? Sometimes the answer is yes, and the move you didn't make actually saves you tens of thousands of dollars and months of stress. And sometimes the answer is no, and the move is the right call. But you can't know which one it is without doing the work, without doing the homework. So before you list, run the staying numbers, meaning the numbers it would take to retrofit your current house so that it becomes perfect for this next chapter, if you will. And that perfect list, run that against the next 20 years. And do that before you list the home. Also, make sure that you get the right team in one conversation. And here's the next step. Before you decide downsizing is the right call, define what perfect actually means for the next 20 years of your life. Get specific. Single story, yard size, walkability, family proximity, build age, lifestyle. Then look at the house that you're in already and ask whether it can become that house. Sometimes with a refinance, sometimes with a remodel, sometimes by just staying put. If it can, you saved yourself a whole lot of pain. If it can't, you downsize with a clear definition of what you're moving towards, not away from. That's the work. I'm Weldon Hobbs. When we're making big decisions, we start with your life goal. We optimize it for wealth, and then we focus on the real estate. Remember, good decisions, they start with good information, and I'll see you in the next one.